Anybody extra really going to show up in the next minute and 20 seconds?
It might, because all the
Yeah.
traffic on 90.
Good point. Cell phones, turn to silent, vibrate, whatever you got. Yeah.
Hey Greg, is your phone on silent?
I don't know, is yours?
Just don't call each other.
I haven't had
All
that.
right, Brandon, if you'll go ahead and go live on that one. Oh, good to know. I appreciate the heads up. No, that's fine. Well, you know. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Joe Zerchowski. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Blackwater Forestry Center of the Florida Forest Service. We're here tonight to talk about the 5 Mile Swamp Fire, give you guys a rundown of that. We'll tell you where we're at from each of our different positions. There's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of them got activated today. Before we talk about 5 Mile Swamp Fire, I did want to give you guys updates on 2 other fires we have in this district. Our district covers Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa counties. To our west in Escambia County, we have the Hearst Hammock 2 fire. Right now we have roughly 300 acres burning over there around Hearst Hammock Road and Beulah Road. Containment at this time is unknown. We have 5 Florida Forest Service tractor plow units on that one, as well as tractor plow unit from the Alabama Forestry Commission, and significant resources from Escambia County Fire Rescue. Another fire in Santa Rosa County, the A.C. Lowry fire up around Chumuckla Highway is 70 acres. Last report it was 40% contained with 3 tractor plow units on it. Part of the reason we've got significant resources on those is because of planning and forethought by the powers that be, higher ups, that brought in resources from other districts to help with the 5 Mile Swamp Fire, leaving significant coverage, appropriate coverage for any other fire that might break out. What we saw today on the 5 Mile Swamp Fire was a significant increase in our acreage. This morning when I sent out my media update, 9:30, 10 o'clock, it was 250 acres and 40% contained. Those numbers were invalid by noon. Right now we're looking at 2,000 acres, as you see on the map behind me, and 20% contained. We have just shy of 20 tractors on this fire. We're looking at 18 tractor plow units, and that's a mix of our medium units and our heavy units. Most of you have seen some of our tractors in action today. You can tell the difference. When the heavies come through, they really make a line. They do the heavy work that allows our smaller tractors to make significant progress. What we experienced today was the unfortunate alignment of weather and fire in bad, rough terrain. This fire had been burning for 2 days in a swamp, making access difficult, making suppression difficult. Today, the wind shifted from south-southwest, where it was traditionally pushing deeper into the swamp, and this morning they started coming out of the north, pushing it directly towards Interstate 10. Generally speaking, you guys know how it goes during the winter when you get those cold fronts that come through. North wind brings lower humidities. We saw significantly lower humidities. We went from middle 40s yesterday to low 20s today. You take the humidity out of the fuels, the fire is going to burn hotter. The fire is going to burn faster. You put a 20+ mile an hour wind behind it, that's the driving force that we saw today. It spotted the interstate in several places, starting at about 11:30, and it has continued. We can confirm that there are multiple structures that were lost south of the interstate. We do have evacuations in order. I'm going to let Mr. Brad Baker from Santa Rosa County cover that stuff for you. We do want folks to know, though, that the Florida Forest Service and Santa Rosa County's fire resources are actively engaged in this fire, have been 24/7 to one degree or another since it started. We have crews, we have tractors on scene tonight. We are working around the clock to get this fire contained. We're putting every resource we can get our hands on this fire. One of the things that also bears mentioning with that in mind, it's not necessarily our district, but our neighbors in Walton County are looking at a 550 acre fire with 18 structures so far damaged or destroyed over there. They have significant tractor resources over there coming in from Tallahassee because they sent some of their tractors to help us out. That's kind of the overview, the broad view. I'm going to let Mr. Baker talk about Santa Rosa County's process and what they've got going on. Then Mr. Ron Livingston from the Florida Highway Patrol will talk about the Interstate 10 closure, and then we will all be available for questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Brad Baker, Public Safety Director, Santa Rosa County. So as Joe said, we have confirmed that there are at least a dozen structures that have been destroyed and several others that have been damaged. We also have a lot of accessory buildings that are destroyed as well. The area will stay evacuated at least till noon tomorrow. And we've activated our citizen information line, which is 983-INFO. That's 983-4636. We ask that if you were evacuated from this area to give us a call. We'll try to help you through the process. We have set up a temporary shelter at the Milton Community Center, and we've worked with some of our hotels to get what we call non-congregate sheltering. So we'll work with you to get you moved to a hotel. Hopefully we'll be able to assess it at noon with the Florida Forest Service tomorrow based on weather conditions and fire conditions, and probably open it in pockets. There are a lot of infrastructure damage out there. Power poles are burned up, power lines are on the ground. Gulf Power has been out there assessing it, but just not sure when they can get that back up. So if you live in that area, even if you're not affected by the fire, don't expect your power on tonight. A couple other things, you know, we want to give a shout out to all the fire departments that are out there. They're too numerous to name, but it started off with the Avalon and Baghdad fire. And like Forestry said, they've been working with them for the last couple of days on this fire. We then expanded it out and tapped into a lot of our resources from the south end, from the north end of our county. Escambia Fire was able to send some over here after they cleared their fire. Okaloosa sent part of their wildland task force over here. Pensacola City sent an engine over here, and then, you know, we thank our sheriff's department. They helped us with evacuation orders. They also helped with crowd control out there. You know, we sent out an evacuation notice, and we sent it over the wireless alert so people would get it. We found that some people didn't heed our warning, so we asked this to be a time that you revisit that. We have a lot of alert functions out there, and you need to pay attention, because this time we were able to save some people that in all reality was very hairy. It was near life and death, and we were able to get them out. And once again, the Florida Forest Service, some of their quick response vehicles were able to get to residents who did not heed our warning and did not evacuate, or were wanting to wait till they saw the flame before they left. So just take this as a caution note, and say, you know, when we send an alert, take it serious. You know, we care about your life and your property, and more about your life than anything, and we're doing this for your benefit. So once again, we had 1,110 residential units within this area that we initiated an evacuation for. The original one was about 649, and then about 366 come in after the fact. We had the little flare-up when the wind shifted toward Ski Watch Estate. So we'll continue to work with the fire service. I just want to reiterate, if you are evacuated and you live in that area, we have our information line set up. We have sheltering available for you, and we'll continue to communicate that out. Also, we understand that you're very concerned, is your house one of the ones that is damaged or destroyed? We will do everything we can to get in there and get an address and communicate that information to you. So please call our citizen information number. I'll give it to you one more time. It is 983-INFO, 983-4636. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Livingston with the Highway Patrol.
Yeah, my name is Ron Livingston with the Florida Highway Patrol. Currently, we have from the 22-mile marker, which is Avalon Boulevard, to State Road 87, at the 31-mile marker is shut down. Traffic is backed up on both of those roads. On Highway 87, we're flushing all the traffic coming west onto Highway 87. So if you live on Highway 87, be patient, because we have to get that traffic off the interstate onto Highway 87. As of right now, we're flushing all the traffic southbound. Avalon Boulevard, obviously all the traffic that's coming west on I-10 is being flushed off and diverted onto Avalon Boulevard. So Avalon is backed up. So if you are using any one of those thoroughfares, you need to obviously take caution. Obviously, it's going to be backed up. It's going to be a while. We want to thank Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office for helping us out. And just be careful and take your time. And if you have any questions, I'll be welcome to answer them.
Just questions. Okay. We will now open it up to questions.
Have you had any reported injuries? Sorry.
No, right now there are no injuries that have been reported to us.
Can we go back, Joe, to the origin of the fire and
Yes.
who was monitoring it and when it sort of got out of control?
Okay. This fire started Monday, and it was a result of an escaped prescribed burn on private lands by a private contractor.
Is it commonplace to authorize those types of prescribed burns with the conditions the way they are in a drought like this?
Sure. We have a specific set of parameters that prescribed burners must meet before they can be authorized to burn, regardless of the weather, even in, we'll say, wetter conditions. That particular burner not only met those parameters, but we instituted additional parameters, and they were able to meet them. So
What have they told you about how it got out of control, how it escaped them?
I have not had those conversations with that company, with that contractor. But the thing about prescribed fire is, it is, typically speaking, a safe and effective way to not only help the environment of Florida by returning fire, which is a natural process to the landscape, but it also, traditionally speaking, can help reduce the wildfire risk. Unfortunately, in this situation, that was not the case. The fire got away from the burner, and here we are.
Can you show us on the map where it started?
Yes, sir. It would be pretty much right there.
In that little nook there?
Yes.
Will the private contractor face any kind of liability or anything for the fact it's gone out of control?
Anybody whose fire escapes, prescribed or otherwise, can be held responsible for the suppression charges. Yes.
Is there sort of a separate investigation going on into that?
Yeah, that's right now. Me and our folks here, we are dealing with the suppression of the fire. That end of things will happen, but it's got its own time frame and its own process.
Joe, what are we looking at right now for the community right now? Even though your people are working throughout the night, what can we let them know that can help them be prepared throughout the night?
Sure. Well, they're going to see smoke. Really, right now, in addition to the fire, one of the lesser thought of hazards is the smoky conditions. So looking at that map, we all know what's even further south from there, right? It's Highway 98, a very heavily traveled corridor. Even more heavily traveled right now with the closure of I-10. Smoke can impact Highway 98 down there. Typically speaking, nighttime hours, the humidity comes up, the smoke starts to settle down, it can linger. So we want folks to use extreme caution. As Mr. Livingston said, be safe, go slow. You're not making any progress if you try to hurry. There's still 100 cars in front of you. Throwing smoke on top of an aggravating situation, we just want folks to use absolutely the utmost caution. We have experienced significant losses of property, but as was mentioned, no injuries, no lives lost, and we really want to keep it that way.
Jim, are these people that apply for these prescribed burns, contractors, do they have to provide proof of insurance or bond before they're issued that permit?
Not necessarily to us, and I'm unfamiliar if he did have insurance or how that situation
So they
would
can do a
unfold.
permit without proof of insurance?
Yes.
How many more structures are we worried about right now that could be in danger because of this fire?
I would turn that one over to Brad Baker. He mentioned the number, so I'm not 100% sure how many structures we have south of our current fire perimeter, and I don't know that we have that exact broken out. But what was your total number?
We know that we have over a dozen that are destroyed already and several that are damaged. We'll have to get out tomorrow and do a damage assessment. But as far as being threatened, it burned all the way to the Blackwater Bay in the area of Blackwater Drive. So there are several houses that are further south of that on all those other, I can't remember all the roads, but all the other roads that spawn off of Garcon Point to the south. Luckily, that is not a real heavily populated area, such as the Holly Navarre or the Pace area with the larger subdivisions. But there are several houses in there, and I can't give you an exact number, but there are several streets that if the conditions worsen tomorrow and it does start, a forward advance again, that would be threatened. So that's another reason why we're keeping the evacuation order in place through noon tomorrow. We want to see what the fire conditions do, the weather conditions do for tomorrow. There's also going to be no power. And it's just not safe with all the smoke that should be laying down with the increased humidity tonight. It's just a wise decision for us not to let people out who's already evacuated. So
Now, they were talking about some significant winds up to 44 miles an hour. I mean, is that going to make an impact to this fire jumping over the bay?
I'm not aware of 44.
I haven't heard that number. Mike Hudson, the district manager for Blackwater Forestry Center, I haven't heard anything about that significant of a wind today. We did get gusts clocked today at 32 miles an hour. But tomorrow, it was looking like the last weather forecast I saw from our meteorologist was that the humidity would be bad. It's going to be low. Fire danger will be high, but the actual wind and wind gusts would not be quite as high. We weren't predicting gusts tomorrow of the nature that we had today.
Any precipitation in the forecast?
No, sir.
No. All right. I'll take one more question.
There were a lot of frustrated people who wanted to go back to their homes to gather belongings, pets, etc. What do you say to those people that, you weren't allowed to go back?
Right. I mean, honestly, I can tell you that we feel your pain, It is an unfortunate situation, but the preservation of human life, firefighter and public safety is always the #1 priority of any wildfire, any structure fire, any operation that we're going to do. Responder and public safety is always #1. I personally witnessed a few of those situations, and it hurts. It's a tough situation, but ultimately it's the right call. We're saving human lives.
One last important
question.
If it's possible. Governor DeSantis knows about what's going on over here in Northwest Florida. Do we know what he's going to be able to do to be able to help our area?
Not at this time. I can't speak for the governor. No, sir. I will leave you guys with this, though. As Mike Hudson expressed earlier, tomorrow it's windy. It's going to be dry. I would ask each and every resident through this weekend, and until we see significant rainfall in this area, please, let's not do any outdoor burning. There's no burn bans in effect, and we do not have widespread fires. We have a couple. Let's not make this situation any worse and adding to the workload that the Forest Service and our county responders have to deal with. So, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Are there any people at the community center availing themselves of the shelter?